Episode 24, The Infernal Dispatch, The Feast of Decay. The fires burn north while the Republic bows to a banquet of rot. Everywhere they lift their glasses, senators in suits, pundits on camera, priests of policy in marble halls, and toast to unity while feeding the poor scraps of spectacle. They call it democracy. They call it resilience. They call it a revival. Behind the polished podiums and smiling photo ops, debt gnaws like vermin at the foundation. Infrastructure rusts, communities hollow out, and the people are asked to clap for crumbs. Look at the threading of it. Mass firings, agency purge after agency purge, a federal apparatus hollowed in the name of efficiency. Entire departments emptied while the same voices cry that government cannot be trusted. These cuts are not accidental declensions. They are ritualized amputations meant to make the body more obedient and the will easier to seize. They tell you this is to streamline the nation, to rid the state of its bloat. Yet with each desk cleared, with each scientist and program dismissed, the state loses memory, care, and the capacity that once allowed space for dissent or protection. A poorer public makes for a quieter public squares. They have made the economy into an altar, where you serve with your labor and your fear. They teach you to worship growth, the ticker, the promise of tomorrow's product. Bread becomes a metric, and rent a ritual. Wages are whispered away while the towers of finance celebrate on screens that glow like false suns. Inflation is called a technicality, an abstract line in a ledger, while you stand in line and realize the price for survival is rising week by week. They'll tell you the market is healthy, while your neighbor chooses between medicine and heat. Consumption is marketed as salvation. Credit cards are the rosaries of a new creed. You swallow the narrative that you are free because you may spend, because you may choose a brand, when the true choice has long since been removed. Even the language of liberty is pressed into service as a lever to pry open your pockets and shut your mouth. The politicians give ritual demonstrations, new bills, emergency proclamations, in the name of security. They decree crime emergency, and with such invocations comes the arrival of uniforms, the marching of troops into cities under the guise of protecting streets they themselves have abandoned. A president declares the National Guard to be dispatched to a city, and the act is couched in the sacrament of safety. A hand extended, a promise issued, authority expanded. This is not protection. This is spectacle that consolidates the power of the center. The people are trained to cheer at the sight of soldiers in their towns and to feel gratitude for their own curfews. They are taught to believe their own subjugation is the highest good because it arrives wrapped in flags and solemn rhetoric. You will defend the chains that bind you, for the chains were sold to you as safety. The state makes enemies to justify its own growth, the migrant at the border, the protester in the street, the other in the next district. Each constructed enemy is a scapegoat to which the people are sacrificed. Look at how they use fear. It is never random. They breed narratives of chaos, that the other is violent, that the schools are collapsing, that the city is lost to crime. Then they offer a ritualistic cure, more policing, more militarized presence, more exceptional authority. The pattern is surgical. Make the public fearful, then make a bold gesture, then watch the cheers for authoritarian remedy rise. And when the remedy becomes habit, it becomes policy. The ritual hardens into law. Civil liberties thin to whisper. The same hands that promise order are the hands that will later press the ledger closed on your freedom.
At the same time, the spectacle of politics is theater, and theater has always required an audience gullible enough to forget it is being staged. Two masks exchange the stage. The familiar roarer of rage promising a coup of order, the measured conciliator promising stability. The two have different styles, different cadences, but their altar is the same. They are both priests of the blind one. Their words are liturgy, and the liturgy requires offerings. The offerings are your obedience, your labor, your silence. You believe that by choosing a face you have chosen freedom, but you have only chosen which mask you will bow to tonight. While they perform this theater, the social fabric frays. The culture wars are their sacrament, religions of indignation practiced on talk shows and in comment sections. Arguments become rituals where the currency is outrage and the object is tribal reinforcement. History is litigated in classrooms and legislatures, rewritten to stoke fury and loyalty. The truth becomes weaponized, nuance becomes sacrilege. In this environment, ordinary compassion withers, and neighbors become strangers. The children of the nameless watch and smile at the spectacle. Shams laughs at the phony sons they place on pedestals. Kamar sips from the cups of their grief, and Marek readies the spear for those moments when rage leaps beyond polite channels. But do not mistake the rot for inevitable collapse. The Feast of Decay is deliberate. Corruption is not merely the byproduct of incompetence, it is the purpose. The banquet feeds the few and discards the many. Corporations and cronies dine well, while the public is kept warm with illusions. Lobbyists write scripture, and the courts are altars where precedent is sacrificed for profit. The marriage of state and capital is consummated at the table and blessed in chambers where light does not reach. They privatize what is sacred: water, schools, knowledge, and then they call it innovation. The people pay tolls for the roads the wealthy built. The poor pay for the education the wealthy avoid. And when a program that cares for the sick or teaches the young is slashed, there is an applause room somewhere else where bonuses are counted. Understand also the geography of despair. Entire communities are made to disappear slowly. Towns hollowed when factories close, neighborhoods priced out until only the wealthy remain, rural hospitals shuttered in the name of efficiency. These are not accidents of the market. These are rituals of attrition. Remove the anchors of community, and you create a drift of isolated people easier to manage, easier to divide. When people are isolated, rumor and fear accelerate. When they are fearful, they are more pliable. The state becomes both predator and shepherd. Still, among the ashes, there is a dangerous tenderness. We see underground networks of mutual aid, quiet acts of rebellion, neighbors sharing medicine and food. This tenderness is a form of counter-ritual, a reclamation of what they took. It is furtive, small, and therefore more likely to survive the glare of the altar. In basements and kitchens, they exchange books, food, code. They teach each other to repair, to heal, to resist. These acts are not theatrical. They are not for the cameras. They are for life. We must also name the performance of law. Laws are deployed selectively as a theater of morality. Certain infractions are punished with spectacle, while other transgressions, those of wealth and power, are given a pass or lauded. This uneven application is not incompetence, it is pedagogy. Punish one to terrify many. Let the masters be free to plunder. Make the punishments visible. Arrests on camera. Headlines about disorder. and then the rounding up of the marginalized under the rubric of protection. The system builds a moral hierarchy where obedience is virtue and curiosity is vice. And what of the children? The metaphors are not idle. The youngest among us are taught to model life inside the cages. Schools teach the sanitized histories the powerful prefer. Screens teach consumption. Algorithms teach isolation. These are modern temples to the blind one. He teaches through profit signals and ranking algorithms. He instructs the young to value their feed above their neighbor, to prefer fame over depth, to fear difference rather than be curious about it. Thus, you produce generations of obedient worshippers of the altar of attention. But for all their machinations,